They laughed when I lost everything in the divorce, but years later, they stood in line to work for my company. I said, "Not so fast, remember? I never thought I'd be that woman, the one sitting in a courtroom watching her life unravel thread by thread." Yet there I was, gripping the edge of my seat as Solomon's lawyer systematically dismantled 15 years of what I thought was a perfect marriage. My name is Reagan, and 6 months ago, I was living what most would consider a charmed life. Executive wife, charity board member. That woman who had it all. Now I'm watching my soon-to-be ex-husband's sister Sierra film my humiliation on her phone, probably already crafting the perfect caption for her million followers. "Mrs. Turner," the judge's voice cut through my thoughts. "The court finds that the prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable." Solomon didn't even bother hiding his smirk. He sat there in his perfectly tailored suit, looking more like the man I'd met at that charity gala than he had in years. The difference was now I could see through the facade. "Your Honor," my client, my lawyer started, but the judge raised his hand. "I've made my decision. The agreement clearly states that in the event of infidelity, all jointly acquired assets revert to the injured party." But the words caught in my throat as Solomon's lawyer produced the photos. Photos that I knew were staged, but looked real enough to convince a judge, me supposedly in a hotel with our landscaper. The ultimate cliché. Furthermore, the judge continued, "The defendant will vacate the marital home within 72 hours. Sierra's phone followed my every move as I left the courthouse. "Hey Reagan," she called out, her voice dripping with false concern. "Any comment for my followers? They're dying to know how it feels to go from riches to rags." I kept walking, my heels clicking against the marble floors. "Don't cry. Don't give them the satisfaction. Leave her alone, Sarah." Caitlin, my best friend, stepped between us. "Haven't you done enough? Oh please." Kira laughed. "She brought this on herself. Maybe if she'd been a better wife." "A better wife?" I spun around, surprising even myself with the steadiness in my voice. "You mean like looking the other way while your brother emptied our joint accounts? Or maybe I should have ignored the receipts from his business trips to Vegas." Solomon's father, Anthony, appeared behind Kira. "Now Reagan, there's no need to make a scene. The judge has made his decision. Accept it with grace." "Grace?" I stepped closer to him. "Like the grace you showed when you helped Solomon forge those photos, or the grace of watching your daughter turn my pain into social media content." "You can't prove any of that." Solomon finally spoke, joining his family. "It's over, Reagan. You lost. Go home." "Oh wait, it's not your home anymore." They laughed. All three of them standing there in their designer clothes, bought with money that should have been partly mine, laughing at my downfall. I felt Caitlin's hand on my arm trying to pull me away, but something inside me had snapped. 15 years of playing the perfect wife, of building Solomon's image, of managing his social calendar and smoothing over his family's drama. All of it crystallized into a single moment of clarity. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice carrying across the courthouse lobby. "You all think this is the end of my story, that without the Turner name, I'm nothing. But you've forgotten something crucial." "And what's that?" Kira asked, still recording. "I built Solomon's brand. Every connection, every business deal, every social circle, I cultivated those. I made the Turner name mean something in this city. And now," I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. "Now I get to do it for myself." "Good luck with that," Solomon scoffed. "You'll be working retail within a month." I adjusted my bag on my shoulder and turned to leave, but not before delivering one final shot. "Keep recording, Kira. This will make excellent content for your follow-up video, the one where you explain how your brother's ex-wife became everything he pretended to be." As Caitlin and I walked out into the bright afternoon sun, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. They thought they'd stripped me of everything, but they'd actually given me something priceless: freedom. "You okay?" Caitlin asked, squeezing my hand. "No," I admitted, "but I will be." "They want to see me fall? Fine, but they better be ready for what happens when I rise." I could still hear Kiara's voice behind us, already spinning the story for her followers. "Let her talk. Let them all talk." They thought this was my ending, but they were wrong. This was just my beginning. The key to my new apartment stuck in the lock again. I jiggled it, cursing under my breath as my phone buzzed for the 10th time today. Another message from Sierra's followers, no doubt, telling me how I deserved everything I got. "Need help with that?" My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, appeared in the hallway. "These locks can be tricky, dear." "I've got it," I said, finally forcing the door open. "Just need to get used to it." My studio apartment was a far cry from the mansion I'd left behind. A twin bed, a small desk, and a kitchenette that barely fit a mini fridge, but it was mine. No Solomon, no Turners, no pretense. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Caitlin. "Please tell me you're coming to happy hour," she said when I answered. "You can't keep hiding in your apartment forever." "I'm not hiding. I'm working." I glanced at my desk covered in sketches of eco-friendly fashion designs. Besides, I can barely afford ramen right now, let alone cocktails. "It's on me, no arguments. You need to get out, Reagan. It's been 3 weeks." An hour later, I found myself at our old favorite bar, nursing a glass of house wine while Caitlin showed me the latest social media drama. Can you believe her? Caitlin scrolled through Kiara's latest post, a heartfelt video about family loyalty and karma. "She's monetizing your divorce." "Of course she is," I said, taking another sip. "That's what Kiara does, takes other people's pain and turns it into content." The bartender set down 2 more glasses. "These are from the gentleman at the end of the bar." We turned to see a well-dressed man in his 40s raising his glass to us. "That's Franklin Cunningham," Caitlin whispered. "The fashion consultant. What's he doing in this dive?" Before I could respond, Franklin was walking over. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion," he said, but I couldn't help overhearing. "You're Reagan Turner, aren't you?" "Just Reagan now," I corrected him. "And yes, I am. I saw your work at the Thompson Charity Gala last year. Those sustainable fashion pieces you coordinated? Brilliant." I straightened up. "You remember that? Hard to forget. The industry needs more people thinking about sustainability. I'm hosting an event next week. Small gathering, just some designers and investors discussing the future of eco-friendly fashion. You should come." My heart raced, but years of dealing with Salomon's business associates had taught me to stay cool. "That's flattering, but I'm not exactly in that world anymore." Franklin pulled out a business card. "The invitation stands. Sometimes losing everything is the best thing that can happen to a creative mind." After he left, Caitlin grabbed my arm. "You're going, right? This is exactly what you need." "I don't have anything to wear," I said, but my mind was already racing with possibilities. "My good clothes are all at the house." "Wear that black dress you grabbed before Solomon changed the locks, the one you designed yourself." My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from my new job, a sales position at a department store. I have to work that night. "Call in sick," Caitlin said. "This is your chance, Reagan. While Solomon and his family are busy destroying your reputation, you could be building something new." I stared at Franklin's card, remembering the sketches on my desk. Every night after my shift, I'd stay up drawing, imagining a fashion line that was both sustainable and sophisticated. It had started as therapy, but maybe, what if I fail? I whispered. "They're all waiting for that, you know. Solomon, Kiara, Anthony, they're expecting me to crash and burn, then give them a show they'll never forget." Caitlin grabbed my phone and pulled up Kiara's latest video. "Look at this. 2 million views of her talking about your fall from grace. Imagine their faces when you rise higher than they ever did." Just then, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I answered hesitantly. "Reagan, it's Franklin again. Sorry to call so late, but I forgot to mention bring some of your sketches to the event. I know people who might be interested." After hanging up, I looked at Caitlin, who was grinning from ear to ear. "The universe is speaking," she said. "Are you going to listen?" I finished my wine and stood up. "I need to go home and work on those sketches. That's my girl." Caitlin hugged me. "Show them what you're made of." Walking home that night, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before the divorce: purpose. Solomon might have taken my money, my home, and my social standing, but he couldn't take my talent or my drive. For the first time in months, I couldn't wait for tomorrow. The event venue was exactly the kind of place Solomon used to frequent, all glass walls and modern art. I clutched my portfolio closer, suddenly aware of how out of place I felt in my self-designed dress. "Reagan." Franklin waved me over to a group of well-dressed industry veterans. "Everyone, this is the designer I was telling you about. So you're the sustainable fashion enthusiast." A woman in her 60s extended her hand. "I'm Margaret, editor of Style Forward. Franklin says you have some interesting ideas." I opened my portfolio, hands trembling slightly. "I believe luxury fashion doesn't have to cost the earth. These designs use recycled materials and innovative," another voice cut in. "But how would you scale it?" For the next hour, I found myself in detailed discussions about production methods, material sourcing, and market potential. The nervousness faded as I spoke about my passion project. "You've clearly thought this through," Margaret said, examining my sketches. "But starting a fashion line requires significant capital." "I'm aware," I admitted. "I'm currently saving up from my retail job. A burst of familiar laughter from across the room made me freeze. Tiara was here, hanging on the arm of some investor, her phone permanently attached to her hand. "Isn't that Solomon Turner's sister?" someone whispered, "the social media influencer." Franklin noticed my discomfort. "Ignore her. Focus on this instead." He handed me a business card. "Sarah's looking for fresh talent for her Sustainable Fashion Incubator program. Full funding, mentorship, the works." Before I could respond, Kara spotted me. Her eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed with calculated precision. "Reagan, what a surprise." Her voice carried across the room. "Everyone, this is my former sister-in-law. You know, the one from my videos?" The room grew quiet. I could feel the stares, the judgment, the assumptions. Actually, Franklin stepped forward. Reagan was just sharing her innovative approach to sustainable luxury fashion. "Margaret, why don't you tell everyone about what you were saying regarding her market analysis?" Margaret smiled. "Gladly, it's refreshing to see someone tackle sustainability without compromising sophistication." "Reagan, that dress you're wearing, you designed it?" "Yes," I said, finding my voice. "It's made entirely from recycled materials." "Recycled?" Kiara snickered. "How appropriate." "Speaking of recycling, how's the department store job?" "It's teaching me valuable lessons about what customers really want," I replied smoothly. "Something your brother never understood." The crowd murmured appreciatively. Tiara's smile faltered. "Ladies," Franklin interrupted, "let's keep things professional. Reagan, why don't you show everyone your concept for biodegradable packaging?" As I presented my ideas, I noticed people actually taking notes. Margaret asked detailed questions about production costs. Even Sierra's investor friend seemed interested. "This could work," Margaret announced. "With the right backing and guidance, you could be onto something significant." "But she has no experience running a business," Kira protested. "My brother always handled that side of things." "Your brother," an older gentleman laughed. "Isn't he the one who just lost his family's fortune in that failed resort development?" Kira's face reddened. That's just temporary setback." Speaking of which, someone else chimed in. "Did you see the news about Turner Industries laying off staff?" I hadn't heard this. While I'd been focused on my designs, apparently, Solomon's world had been crumbling. "Reagan." Franklin pulled me aside as conversations buzzed around us. "Sarah loved your presentation. She wants you in the incubator program. Full funding starting next month." My heart stopped. "Are you serious?" "Completely. This is your chance. Take it." Across the room, Kiara was frantically typing on her phone, probably crafting some spin about the evening. But for once, I didn't care. "When do I start?" I asked. "We'll need you full-time. Can you leave the retail job?" I thought about my tiny apartment, my stuck door, my ramen dinners. Then I thought about Solomon's smirk in the courtroom, Kiara's mocking videos, Anthony's condescension. "Yes," I said firmly, "I can start whenever you need me." As I left the event that night, my phone buzzed with a notification. Kara had posted a new video, running into my ex-sister-in-law at a fashion event. So awkward. But underneath her post was a comment from Margaret, excited to see what this talented young designer does next. "Watch this space. Sustainable fashion." I smiled, thinking of Solomon watching these posts, realizing that his attempt to destroy me had only set me free. My phone buzzed again. A text from Franklin with details about the incubator program. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a beginning. And somewhere in the city, in their rapidly shrinking world, the Turners were about to learn that karma had a wicked sense of timing. Eco-elegance is more than a fashion brand. I told the reporter from Vogue, it's a movement. Every piece tells a story of renewal and resilience. 6 months after the incubator program, I sat in my new office surrounded by mood boards and sustainable fabric samples. The interview was going live tomorrow, along with our first major collection launch. "One last question." The reporter leaned forward. "Your ex-husband's family was quite prominent in the fashion scene. Has their recent financial situation affected your perspective on success?" Before I could answer, Caitlin burst in. "Reagan, you need to see this." She held up her phone showing Kiara's latest Instagram livestream. My former sister-in-law's perfectly maintained facade was cracking. "And yes, the rumors are true." Kiara's voice trembled. "Turner Industries is filing for bankruptcy, but this is just a temporary setback. Our family has weathered worse." "I'm sorry," I told the reporter, "but I need to handle something. Would you mind if we wrapped up?" After she left, Caitlin turned up the volume. "Their main investors pulled out," she explained. "Something about Solomon's gambling debts coming to light." "Reagan?" My assistant poked her head in. "Franklin's on line 1. He says it's urgent." I picked up the phone. "Franklin, I was just about to call you. Have you seen the news? The Turners are finished. Anthony's having a fire sale of their assets. But that's not why I'm calling. Sierra has been trying to reach you. What? She showed up at my office an hour ago asking for your contact information, said something about making amends. I laughed. Now she wants to make amends after months of mocking videos? Just thought you should know. By the way, early orders for eco-elegance are through the roof. The sustainable fashion forums can't stop talking about you. After hanging up, I pulled up the financial news on my computer. The headlines were brutal. Turner empire crumbles. Social media dynasty faces financial ruin. Solomon Turner's Vegas losses sink family business. Miss Reagan? My assistant appeared again. There's someone here to see you, says she's family, send her in. Sierra walked in, looking nothing like her polished social media persona. Her designer outfit was from last season. Her makeup slightly smudged. Reagan, she started. Save it. I cut her off. Whatever sob story you're planning to monetize, I'm not interested. It's not like that. Kiara's voice cracked. Everything's falling apart. Solomon's gambling, Dad's health, our reputation. I thought maybe since you're doing so well. You thought what? That I'd help the people who tried to destroy me? Did you forget about the courtroom, the videos, the lies? I was wrong, okay? Tears streaked her makeup. I was jealous. You were always better than us, smarter, more talented. Solomon knew it too. That's why he set you up. The photos, the prenup, all of it. He knew you'd outshine him eventually. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Turner Industries stock had hit rock bottom. Please, Kiara whispered. I need your help. Just a small investment to tide us over. Get out. Reagan, I said get out. I stood up. You didn't care about my dignity when you were filming those videos. You didn't worry about my future when you helped Solomon destroy my reputation. And now you want my help? You're heartless, she spat, her vulnerability vanishing. After everything our family did for you, your family? I laughed. Your family took everything from me and called it karma. Well, guess what? Karma works both ways. As security escorted her out, my phone lit up with a text from Margaret. Just saw the advanced copy of your Vogue interview. Brilliant work. The industry needs more voices like yours. Caitlin hugged me. You okay? Better than okay, I said, watching Kiara's retreating figure through the glass walls. For the first time, I feel truly free. My assistant returned with a stack of papers. The eco-friendly textile suppliers are ready to sign, and the sustainable packaging designs are finalized. Perfect. I signed the contracts, each signature feeling like another step away from my past. Oh, and Miss Reagan, the building manager, called? The Turner's old office space is available for lease. Should I schedule a viewing? I looked around my current office, already too small for our growing team. The irony of taking over their former space wasn't lost on me. Book it, I said. It's time for some renovation. As I watched the sunset over the city skyline, I thought about Solomon's smirk in that courtroom. He'd tried to write my ending, but instead, he'd only written his own. And mine? Mine was just beginning. And that's how eco-elegance became the fastest growing sustainable fashion brand in North America, I concluded, standing on the TED Talk stage. From a tiny apartment and broken dreams to this, proof that rock bottom can be your foundation. The applause was deafening. As I walked off stage, Franklin met me with a proud smile. Brilliant speech. The part about rising from adversity, pure gold. Thanks for pushing me to do this, I said, checking my phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Reagan, a reporter rushed over. Quick question. Any response to Solomon Turner's recent interview about your success? My head snapped up. What interview? He's claiming he always believed in your potential. Says the divorce was actually his way of pushing you to achieve greatness. I laughed, but before I could respond, my assistant Julia appeared. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see. In the green room, she pulled up a video on her tablet. Solomon sat in what looked like a budget hotel room, his once immaculate appearance notably disheveled. Of course, I'm proud of Reagan, he was saying. I always knew she had it in her. Sometimes people need to push to reach their full potential. Turn it off, I said quietly. Has anyone tracked his location? Las Vegas, Julia replied. He's been banned from most casinos there. Apparently, he's been trying to convince investors to help him start a rival sustainable fashion brand. Franklin snorted. Good luck with that. Your patents and trademarks are bulletproof. My phone buzzed again, the same unknown number. This time I answered, Reagan? It was Anthony, Solomon's father. Please don't hang up. What do you want? To apologize and to warn you. Solomon's not well. He's been making threats saying he'll expose some secret about your company. There are no secrets, I said firmly. Unlike your family's business, mine is completely transparent. He's desperate, we all are, the bankruptcy, the scandal. Kira's lost all her sponsorships. I'm selling my house, and this concerns me because we're family. No, I cut him off. We stopped being family when you helped Solomon frame me for infidelity. Remember that, Anthony? The line went quiet. Then, we never meant for things to go this far. Funny how karma works, isn't it? After hanging up, I turned to Franklin. We need to prepare for whatever Solomon's planning. Already on it, he said. Our PR team is ready for any scenario. But Reagan, there's something else you should know. The old Turner building, their remaining staff is being evicted next week. I walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. How many employees? About 50. Most of them had nothing to do with what happened to you. Get me their resumes, I said after a moment. The good ones might deserve a second chance. Not the Turners, but their staff. They shouldn't suffer for their boss's mistakes. Julia cleared her throat. Speaking of second chances, there's a letter for you, hand-delivered. The envelope was expensive, the handwriting familiar. Inside was a single page. Dear Reagan, I know I don't deserve your time or attention. My videos, my mockery, my cruelty, I can't take any of it back. But I'm writing because Solomon is spiraling. He's been talking about confronting you, about exposing something. I don't know what he's planning, but I'm worried he might hurt himself or others. I'm not asking for money or help, just be careful. Kiara P.S. Your TED Talk made me cry. You really did rise from the ashes we created. What do you want to do? Caitlin asked, reading over my shoulder. Schedule a meeting with security, I told Julia, and call our lawyers. If Solomon's planning something, we need to be ready. And Kira's warning, I folded the letter carefully. Keep it. Might be useful someday. My phone lit up with another notification. EcoElegance's stock had hit a new high. Outside, workers were installing our logo on what used to be the Turner building. You know what's ironic? I said to Caitlin. They thought they were burying me. Instead, they planted a seed. And now they want to harvest what you've grown, she replied. Too bad for them. I smiled, watching our logo illuminate against the darkening sky. This garden isn't for sale. Julia appeared again. Your car's ready. And Reagan, Solomon's been spotted at the airport. He's flying in tomorrow. Perfect, I said, gathering my things. Let him come. I'm not that scared woman in the courtroom anymore. What are you going to do? Franklin asked. What I do best, I replied. Turn his poison into power. The unknown number called again. This time, I let it ring. They're here. Valeria, my HR director, poked her head into my office. All three of them. They're in the lobby for the open interviews. I looked up from my laptop. They don't know this is my company? Apparently not. Solomon looks rough. Kira is not filming for once, and Anthony can barely make eye contact with anyone. Caitlin, who'd been reviewing our quarterly reports, sat up straight. Are you really going to interview them? No, I replied, standing up. But I am going to watch. The security feed showed them sitting in our sleek lobby surrounded by EcoElegance's latest campaign photos, all featuring sustainable luxury wear and empowering messages about rising above adversity. Your 9 a.m. is here too, Julia reminded me. The investors from Paris? Reschedule them, this is more important. I took the private elevator down to the observation room adjacent to the lobby. Through the one-way glass I could see Solomon fidgeting with his frayed shirt cuff. Kiara kept checking her reflection in her phone while Anthony stared at the floor. Miss Reagan? Valeria's voice came through my earpiece. Should I begin their interviews? One at a time. Start with Solomon. Valeria called his name, and I watched my ex-husband follow her to the interview room. Through the audio feed, I heard every word. Your resume shows extensive business experience, Valeria began, but there's a significant gap in recent months. Personal matters, Solomon mumbled, but I'm ready to rebuild. I have valuable industry connections. Had, Valeria corrected. According to our research, most of your former contacts have aligned with EcoElegance. Solomon's face darkened. That company, they stole my ideas. My ex-wife, is there something you'd like to share about EcoElegance's founder? She's a fraud, he exploded. I made her what she is. Without me, she'd be nothing. Thank you for your time, Valeria said smoothly. We'll be in touch. Kiara was next. She'd attempted to recreate her former polished look, but her designer bag was an obvious knockoff. Your social media experience is impressive, Valeria noted, though your recent engagement metrics show a significant decline. I'm rebranding, Kiara said quickly. Moving away from luxury lifestyle content to more authentic stories. Like mocking divorce victims? Kiara paled. You've seen those videos? I can explain. No need. Next, please. Anthony walked in last, his shoulders hunched. I know what this looks like, he started. 3 members of a failed family business begging for work. Mr. Turner, Valeria interrupted. Why do you want to work here specifically? Because, he paused, because eco-elegance represents everything we should have been: innovation, integrity, real value. I'd heard enough. Send them to the executive conference room, I told Valeria through the earpiece. All 3. Minutes later, I walked into the conference room. The looks on their faces were priceless. Reagan? Solomon stood up. This is your company? Surprise, I said, sitting at the head of the table. Though if you'd been paying attention to business news instead of gambling, you'd have known that. We didn't come here for games, Anthony started. No. You came here because you're desperate, because every other company in the industry has blacklisted you, because your reputation is toxic. Jara wiped away a tear. Please, Reagan, we have nowhere else to go. That sounds familiar, I replied. Except when I had nowhere to go, you filmed it for your followers. I was wrong, she whispered. We all were. Solomon slammed his hand on the table. You think you're better than us? You're just lucky. Lucky? I laughed. Lucky was having my husband frame me for infidelity. Lucky was watching my sister-in-law turn my pain into content. Lucky was losing everything and finding out who I really am. I stood up, straightening my eco-elegance blazer. You know what the difference is between us? When you had power, you used it to destroy. Now that I have it, I'm using it to create. So that's it? Anthony asked. You're enjoying your revenge? This isn't revenge, I said, walking to the door. This is karma, and karma doesn't need my help. You can't just leave us here, Solomon called out. I turned back one last time. Actually, I can, and I will. Security will show you out. Oh, and Kiara, feel free to film this. I'm sure your remaining followers would love to see what rock bottom really looks like. As I walked away, I heard Solomon's broken whisper. What have we done? The answer was simple. They'd created their own worst enemy, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The elevator doors hadn't even closed behind me when Caitlin caught up. That was intense. Are you okay? Before I could answer, alarms blared through the building. Security cameras showed Solomon trying to force his way past reception, wild-eyed and desperate. You can't hide from me. His voice echoed through the lobby. I made you. I can destroy you. Should I call the police? Julia asked, already reaching for the phone. No, I said. Let him come up. Reagan, are you sure? Franklin emerged from his office, concern etched on his face. I've been running from them long enough. I straightened my shoulders. It's time to end this. The elevator dinged and Solomon burst out, followed by security guards. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his eyes wild. Behind him, Kira and Anthony appeared, trying to pull him back. Solomon, stop, Kira pleaded. You're making it worse. Making it worse? He laughed manically. Look at her standing there in her perfect office with her perfect life. She stole everything from us. I stole nothing, I said calmly. Everything in this building, every design, every success, I earned it. While you were gambling away your inheritance, I was working 18-hour days. While Kira was mocking me online, I was learning sustainable manufacturing. While your father was helping you forge evidence, I was building something real. Real? Solomon spat. You want real? Tell them about the affair. The room went silent. There was no affair, I said quietly. You know that. You paid the photographer to stage those photos. Prove it. I smiled. Funny you should mention that. I nodded to Julia, who pulled up something on the lobby's giant screen. Remember Thomas, the photographer you hired? He kept receipts and emails and a very detailed recording of your instructions. The color drained from Solomon's face as his own voice filled the room, discussing payment for staged photos. I've had this evidence for months, I continued. I could have exposed you, ruined you even further, but I didn't need to. You did that all by yourself. You're bluffing, he whispered, but his hands were shaking. The evidence has been sent to the district attorney's office, Franklin added. Along with proof of your gambling with company funds, they're very interested in speaking with you. Anthony stepped forward. Solomon, that's enough. We've lost. Lost? Solomon turned on his father. We're Turners. We don't lose. Look around. I gestured to the office. Your name isn't on these walls anymore. Your family's legacy isn't in these halls. The only thing left of the Turner Empire is 3 desperate people trying to blame everyone but themselves for their downfall. Kiara started crying. She's right. We did this to ourselves. Security, I called out. Please escort Mr. Turner to the lobby. The police are probably waiting. You can't do this to me. Solomon struggled as the guards took his arms. I'll tell everyone what you really are. What I really am. I walked closer. I'm the woman who lost everything and built something better. I'm the fraud you tried to create who became genuine success. I'm your karma, Solomon. And unlike you, I earned every bit of my power. As they dragged him toward the elevator, I turned to Kira and Anthony. You should go with him. He'll need family where he's going. Reagan. Kira stepped forward. I truly am sorry. I know. That's what makes this sadder. You knew what he did was wrong, but you chose his side anyway. What will happen to him? Anthony asked. That's up to the justice system now. I suggest you both get lawyers. After they left, the office was eerily quiet. Caitlin hugged me tight. You did it. It's really over. Miss Reagan, Julia appeared with her tablet. The Paris investors are still waiting, and the press will want a statement about Solomon's arrest. Tell them the truth, I said. A man who betrayed his wife's trust finally faced the consequences of his actions. No need to embellish. The facts are dramatic enough. And the investors? I looked around at my team, Caitlin, Franklin, Valeria, Julia, all watching me with pride and support. Tell them to come up. It's time to show them what real success looks like. As Julia left to make the calls, I walked to the window. Below, police lights flashed as they led Solomon to a waiting car. Kiara stood on the sidewalk, phone finally dark in her hand. Anthony sat on a bench, head in his hands. Are you sure you're okay? Caitlin asked softly. You know what? I turned away from the window. For the first time since the divorce, I really am. Now let's go make some sustainable fashion history. The elevator dinged, announcing the arrival of the investors. It was time to show the world what a woman could do when she stopped seeking revenge and started pursuing excellence instead. And with that, I declare the Eco-Elegance Foundation officially open. I cut the ribbon across our new Sustainable Fashion Education Center as cameras flashed and applause erupted. The morning sun glinted off the building's solar panels as students began filing in for their first day of classes. Young designers, mostly from underprivileged backgrounds, each given a full scholarship to learn sustainable fashion design. Beautiful speech, Franklin said, joining me as I walked through the classroom spaces, especially the part about turning pain into purpose. Miss Reagan, a young woman approached clutching a portfolio. I'm Maria. I wanted to thank you. After my divorce, I thought my life was over, but then I saw your TED Talk, and now you're here. I finished smiling. Show me what you're working on. As Maria opened her portfolio, Caitlin rushed over. Reagan, you need to see this. She handed me her phone. On the screen was a social media post from Ciara, her first in months, but instead of her usual polished content, it was raw and honest. Today my brother Solomon was sentenced to 5 years for fraud. The post read, Our family's fall from grace taught me hard lessons about karma and authenticity. To everyone I hurt with my cruel videos, especially Reagan, I'm taking accountability. No filters, no excuses. There's more. Caitlin scrolled down. She's enrolled in a social work program, and Anthony's teaching business ethics at a community college. Good for them, I said, handing back the phone. Everyone deserves a chance to rebuild. Miss Reagan, Julia appeared. The Sustainable Fashion Summit in Paris confirmed you as their keynote speaker, and the investors are ready for the expansion meeting. Actually, I looked around at the eager students settling into their workstations. Tell the investors to come here. I want them to see what their money is really building. In the main workshop, design students were already sketching and collaborating. Their energy reminded me of those late nights in my tiny apartment, drawing designs by lamplight, dreaming of something bigger than revenge. Remember when you said I'd be working retail within a month? I asked Caitlin, watching a student experiment with recycled fabrics. God, that feels like a lifetime ago. She laughed. Look at you now. Forbes cover, Time's most influential, and more importantly, actually making a difference. Valeria joined us, reviewing applications on her tablet. The next scholarship round has twice as many applicants. Your story really resonates with people. It's not just my story anymore, I said, walking over to help a student struggling with a design. Here, try angling the seam this way. See how it creates both style and sustainability? The student's eyes lit up. That's perfect. How did you learn to see things this way? By losing everything, I told her. Sometimes you need to strip away all the excess to see what really matters. Franklin called me over to meet the investors, but before I could join him, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the foundation opening online. Solomon's message read, You've built something remarkable. I'm sorry I tried to destroy you. You deserved better. I deleted the message without responding. Some chapters needed to stay closed. Ready for the investor meeting? Julia asked. Actually, I have a better idea. I turned to address the room of students. Who wants to help pitch our next collection? Show these investors what the future of fashion really looks like. Hands shot up everywhere. As students began excitedly sharing their ideas, I saw my reflection in the workshop window, confident, purposeful, free, no longer defined by what was done to me, but by what I chose to do next. Miss Reagan? Maria approached again, this time with a completed sketch. I redesigned my wedding dress into a sustainable evening wear collection. I thought maybe pain really can become something beautiful. That's exactly right. I smiled, examining her work. But you know what's even better than turning pain into beauty? What? Turning it into opportunity for others. I gestured to the bustling workshop. Success is sweet, but legacy is sweeter. Outside, the Eco-Elegance logo caught the midday sun, casting a bright reflection across the educational center's entrance. Below it, our new motto shimmered, rising higher, lifting others. The investors are waiting, Julia reminded me gently. Let them wait one more minute, I said, watching Maria return to her workstation with renewed confidence. I want to remember this moment. This wasn't just a happy ending. It was a beginning, not just for me, but for every person who ever needed to believe that rock bottom could become a foundation, and that was worth more than any revenge could ever be.